Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. In this weekend shooting the shit, I'm joined with John from the Defense Bulletin. John,
What's going on, man? Good to be here. Good to shoot the shit with you, dog.
I'm sure most people that are listening to this know of you in some regard, but do you want to
Yeah,
just
likely.
give
Yeah,
us a little bit of background?
yeah. Quick background. So I'm currently going to school right now for international relations. Doing a bunch of things. I also help out OSINT Defender. I contribute to OSINT Defender on Twitter. Main focus is kind of like East Asia, Indo-Pacific, and then also the Middle East. But cover everything on there. To be honest, and those of you who don't know OSINT Defender, go check them out. Um, as well. And then also Defense Bulletin is kind of my own thing. I've been able to kind of build it out a little bit over the past couple of years. Actually, honestly, it's been almost 4 years now. Um,
All right.
and yeah, yeah, I know. I just been building it out. Honestly, I started building it out around. Actually, it was right during that August of 2021, right during the Cabo pullout.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah,
look, I kind of always had the interest, right? And one of my friends, I just started posting like little updates on my story, saying things like, um like identifying this special forces group by their patch or something like that or something,
yeah,
and one of my friends hit me up. He's like, hey man, like, why don't you just do this? I
yeah.
was like, what do you mean? I think I then, like, that day I deleted everything from my Instagram, and Defense
It
Bulletin
started
was
again.
born. Yeah, I mean, I had Defense
Yeah,
Bulletin already, was a site or something like that. I had to write a junior thesis in like high school, and I wrote it on like the fall, the not the fall, the like decline of the U.S. military or something since the Cold War.
yeah,
A teacher thought I was bullshitting the whole thing. She thought I like plagiarized it or something. But I was like a big nerd on that stuff, so I kind of always
yeah,
had
yeah.
that. And so I'd made Defense Bulletin to put my thesis on there after I got like a 98 on it. I was so happy. I was like, oh, let me show the world this. You know,
Yes, man.
I actually keep it up there now as a kind of like an example of like how much I've kind of grown in my understanding of what I'm studying and stuff like that. Because
Yeah,
it's some of the takes on there are pretty fucking sharp, man. To be honest, I even put a disclaimer on it, in case anyone happens by it, like,
yeah, yeah.
disclaimer, like, these views are not necessarily the views of the author right now at this moment. I wrote this when I was like 17.
Yeah, like looking back at something. Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
but
get why you're keeping it around, but also I don't think I'd want to see my takes when I was 17.
man, some of them they were pretty shot. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
I mean, the
they
world's
were.
changed a lot, man.
You said
Like
what?
the world has changed a lot.
Well, it
Like,
has changed a lot, but I mean, I was saying things like, trying to think of one specific bad take I had. Okay, right. So I have some great takes, like I ended it with something like, if the US doesn't get, readiness up and things like this, the next world superpower is going to be China. Like, I literally ended it with like dot 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 China. Horrible punctuation throughout the whole thing anyway. But
yeah,
uh, but yeah, that's like example of a good take. But there's one take I was talking about, the F-35 program. I clearly didn't understand how like scaling up production works at the time, and
yeah,
how the more you scale up production, the cheaper it gets to produce in each individual unit. And so I was
yeah,
like saying things like, "There's no way we're gonna make 2,000 plus F-35s, and it's already costed this much up to this point." I didn't understand that, and I was
yeah. It
kind of
makes
advocating
sense.
for either, you know somehow figure out how to decrease the this how much each unit costs or something like that, or just cancel the whole thing altogether. I was essentially making points that Elon Musk was making like
I
2
was,
months ago.
I was
Yeah,
literally about to say
yeah,
that.
yeah. It was pretty bad,
I
man.
was like, pretty sure those takes were made fuck, a
Yeah,
couple of
like
months ago
like
now.
pretty recently. No, yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't. There was a clear misunderstanding with that I had at the time. I didn't understand scaling up production and things like that. I didn't understand the defense industrial base side. I didn't even know what that was at the time,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Fair,
I
fair.
was fresh off of watching, like World of Tanks, that type of, military nerd,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watching military channel all the time and stuff like that.
That's pretty
But
cool.
yeah.
Have you found Defense Bulletin has been like beneficial as part of your studies?
Yeah, I mean, you between people like you and then obviously, Cole from Alcon Intelligence, I wouldn't have met you guys. Brody as well from Analyze Educate. I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have started writing for Lethal Mind if it wasn't for Brody, right?
Yeah,
And the team over there. I wouldn't even started doing long form work. if it wasn't for the team over there. And I kind of met, all those guys because I made Defense Bulletin. I was like spam reposting Northern Provision stuff, like, and so eventually
He's
it caught
like,
their eye. They're like, "Who the
hey,
hell is this kid, man?" Like,
yeah, yeah. We're gonna get
yeah,
notification
I
from him
know.
every
But then I
day.
think Brody reached out or something like that one time, and I kind of like didn't decline it, but I was like, "Yeah, maybe not now," but and then the next time, it was the guy who runs Lethal. He hit me up, and I was like, "Oh man, maybe they like what I'm doing a little bit." But I mean, and then I was doing that for about I guess around a year, and then I kind of was I already followed Cole,
Yeah,
Alcon Intelligence. I already followed him, and then you popped up, man, and you were doing some great work. And so then I wrote a couple pieces for him on his Substack, I believe.
yeah,
Um, and he started then I think I was taking your course first, your
yeah.
introduction to IA.
You were like one of my first students. I just gave
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I
Yeah,
was
yeah. I
guinea
was,
pigging it for you, correct? Yeah.
yeah, because I
And
was
then
like, I don't know.
that's right when everything exploded. It was like an explosion of like knowledge almost. Just
Yeah,
kind of my approach to how I write my stuff. I mean, within like a month, my stuff was already getting better, and people were telling me, like not
yeah,
you, not Cole, other people were telling me this. So I was like, oh
yeah,
damn,
yeah.
this guy's fucking killing it, man. So like
Turns
yes,
out the army knows what they're doing when they train people.
yeah, I know, man. So it was great. So, and then I'm still, learning about it and stuff like that. I've had a little more time on my hands now, so maybe I'll dive back into that again. But I mean, I definitely do think it has been almost 100% the reason, starting Defense Bulletin for kind of where I am now, what I'm doing. I decided to highly definitely, I decided to go to school because I started that, back to
Oh,
school,
that's cool.
that is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So that's the way it went. You were doing Defense Bulletin and then went to study politics.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay,
Like,
that makes
and I
sense.
didn't
Yeah,
even have that understanding of geopolitics that I have now. And I definitely attribute
yeah,
that to just kind of like actually that conversation that we were just having in that chat before, man, about unbiased, sources and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, man, I remember when the war started, and I used to be like hopping in spaces and just saying wild stuff, absolutely diabolical things, like just like things that like I cringe now, and I'll go back and look at some of my takes on Twitter and stuff. I'm like, I get what you're trying to say, man, but like,
The way
geez,
you're
you gotta really
formulating
say
it
it.
is,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I definitely would attribute Defense Bulletin to what I'm doing now, everything I'm doing now, almost, except my
I
day
mean,
job.
kind of makes sense, but like, because like an analyst within the military, right? They go through like a training cycle, and then they'll go to their unit as a private, and they'll
Right.
start writing, and they're almost certainly writing just as insane takes, but they're not public on the internet. And
Yeah,
then they
yeah.
have like an intel sergeant or a corporal being like, "What the fuck are
What
you
the
doing
fuck is
here?
this? We're not doing
Stop
this.
that! Don't be dumb." And then that's how they learn. You're just kind of doing it on the internet, and
Well, yeah,
it's not
that's the
bad that
weird
you
thing.
could go back and see it, but it's just different, right?
Yeah, it is different, and I think it was Brody from A&E. He asked me one time. He was like, "Yeah, so what school did you go to?" I'm like, "I didn't go to school, man. What are you talking about?" He's like, "How do you know all this stuff?" I'm like, "I
I
don't know. I
don't
just
know.
read a lot. Like I read
Yeah,
a lot, man."
I'm just a nerd, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
but
man.
that's
I got
me
a lot of
because
tolerance.
that's like the like a new generation thing where it's like all the information is available.
It's
Like
right
anyone
there.
can
Yeah,
learn anything right now, right? The internet has all knowledge ever. You just have to
right.
go find it and like read it. Yeah, I don't
That's interesting because it's funny. I think one time I saw this is back when Alcon still had a Twitter, right?
yeah,
Before I took it down.
it's
I wish I could try and convince him to get it back, man, because there's a lot of good things going on Twitter now. Also, a lot of bad things, but
yeah. I was about to say,
Yeah,
I don't know, bro.
he was like, "Yeah, I don't know about
I
that."
don't
Right?
post on Twitter either.
No, but he had said something like, he asked somebody had asked something, and he goes, "What does your INW tree tell you?" What the fuck is that?
Yeah,
Like,
why he's doing a course on it now?
yeah,
Go take his.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
He
he
just got
just
that course
published it
started. I think he
today.
started 2 days ago, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I remember like looking it up, and I'm like, okay, it's like like prediction analysis, sort of. And then
yeah.
then this is prior to seeing your course and his course. So I'm like, all right, I still don't understand this because now I'm actually looking at like so I found some report on intelligence preparation of the battlefield from the Marine Corps, and I'm like
Oh
reading through
yeah,
this thing, and
that's
this thing may as well be in Chinese to me, right? You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. That's some
Yeah.
putty stuff. That is.
Yeah, and now it's a little more, and I've actually gone back to that report now, a couple years later. Now it's a little, I can kind of understand it now, right? Now I
Yeah,
haven't gotten to some of the modules about, like the actual building out your tree, things like that, and stuff like that
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
So like, because there's like half the report is just like different examples of trees and stuff. I'm like, the fuck, I don't know this shit, but.
Military doctrine is not made to be consumed with
No,
people.
it's really not. It's
It's
not. So, I mean, it's the same thing with like the doctrinal text too. I remember I was in a space speaking to it was John Spencer. You know John Spencer?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
MWY, I think. Yeah, MWY. I don't know if he's still with them, but I know he used to host their urban warfare podcast. He kind of
yeah,
always talking about Israel nonstop now, but it is what it is, right?
yeah,
But,
yeah,
but he goes, he was in a space, and I said we were talking about like kind of how Israel fights and stuff like that. And I had mentioned something like FM 3-0, which is like the operations manual for the U.S. Army. And he's like, you just had that, like you just quoted that. And I was like, yeah, I read FM 3-0 a couple times. He's like, oh, you're one of the people who read that all the way through. I was like, but it sounded like it was almost a slur, like.
He's like, what? Yeah,
Yeah, but I did like that's what I remember. I read FM 3-0 would have came out like right after high school, I guess. So I remember I just sucked it.
that's
I
so
just read it,
funny,
just soaked it in like osmosis.
bro. You
Um,
should, if you went and did like military intelligence training within the army now, you would just frustrate the fuck out of the instructors because they'd be like, what? Like knowing doctrine better than them would be so frustrating.
well, no, somewhere around here I got the counterintelligence field manual too. I read that all the way through. Like somewhere around there's like a joint Army Marine Corps one they came out with years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah,
dear.
but like, yeah, I read those through, and I didn't know like you weren't just. This is also before I learned that doctrine is really more so suggestions, right? You're not supposed to follow it to the letter, right? This is
Yeah,
before that too, right? So I used to say things. There's some takes also in my old thesis, of me saying things like, "Well, doctrinally, this doesn't actually track because,
yeah, yeah.
like." But everything's not that black and white. That's one of the biggest things I've learned since starting Defense
That's,
Bulletin. It's way more gray. There's way more
it's
gray than
just
black and white.
suggestive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or in
Yeah, you're
Russian
not
case,
supposed to
just don't
follow
do it.
doctrine.
Just fucking get rid of it completely.
Yeah, and
It's like
honestly,
so.
some of the stuff in there, it's like it's so rigid now. And for instance, Western nations like us, United States, even you guys over there, we're known for flexibility in
Yeah,
doing warfare, right? And so when you hear some of these, these guys talk on some of these podcasts, like they got this thing called the Breaking Doctrine podcast that the Combined Arms Directorate has. It's a great podcast if you want to talk doctrine, but you can kind of see where we would struggle in an actual fight just from their conversations because they're
yeah,
saying things as if these are like givens,
yeah, yeah,
like they assume we'll have air superiority, like, and they even, but it's weird though because they're aware of that. They'll say that, but then they'll make a statement that disregards that, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
come on, man, And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to say that I know better than retired Colonel Richard Creed. He's the god of doctrine, but I do think that there is a lot of rigidity in fighting, war fighting, and stuff in the United States. But yeah, those are the things that I've been learning since Defense Bulletin. I started it at least, and I'm still learning. I'm learning stuff every single day. So.
Yeah.
But going to
Oh, that's
school has
awesome.
helped that though. I think not so far as half these professors are just shot. But that's college, I guess. But
Yeah,
I do need that piece of paper, I think, to kind of advance myself a little bit more. Obviously. So
yeah. I mean, since leaving the military, I got a master's degree, which is hilarious because I don't have an undergrad, so I just jumped straight in at
you can do
masters.
that, or is that's just
Yeah,
a
it
European thing?
just no. This is in New Zealand. It's just
Oh,
a
okay.
an interesting way of going about this.
Hey man,
Yeah.
do what you got to do, man. Right?
Ah, man, I got a bit of paper now.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly. You got the paper, man. You got the
yeah,
paper, man. I think that's the best way to do it, man. So far, I think. I mean, there are definitely times where I had like a month where I was like, I'm about to just fucking quit.
bin this all off. Yeah,
Yeah, it was when my teacher, she was talking about, professor that is, she's talking about, I mean, she's giving us like, what was it? It was a South American history course, and we hadn't learned anything about South American history for like the first 3 weeks. I'm like, all right, maybe it's just an intro, right? Then it became kind of evident that my teacher's like a fully avowed communist, right? Which is a fact for someone teaching South American history, right? But
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it was like I get like you're gonna have to teach a bit about communism to and kind of how it works and
Yeah.
socialism as well to understand South American history. But this is a class that's supposed to focus specifically on like the political stuff going on, some of the warfare that happened then. We haven't even it wasn't even on the curriculum there.
with three
Yeah.
weeks in and we
Yeah.
haven't talked about it.
We're 3 weeks in it, and you're giving us something from the local Communist Party of New York, and they're like ranting against Donald Trump and Obama. Apparently, communists hate Obama. I didn't even know that, right? Like I'm learning something in that class, but not what we're supposed to
Just
do.
not completely unrelated to South American history.
Exactly, man. Yeah.
It's a random
Uh,
person to hate.
but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how the college it goes right now. I feel like I'm not the only one. Also, there's the AI problem. Everyone's just spamming AI.
Bro.
And it's like
I don't see how they fix that problem.
I don't either because it's like it's so bad. Like, man, it's like there are smart kids too in my there were smart kids in my course, and they would say great things like doing the class and stuff, and then when we had our discussion posts and stuff like that, boom, AI. I'm like, you couldn't just
Yeah.
put what you said in class on the paper, man.
I wonder
Like
if that's going to become a bigger part, is like the actual like discussion part of it,
mhm.
whether they'll need to like scale down class sizes and evaluate students on like what they can like, articulate and like talk about.
But oh, so that they can the professors can kind of
Essentially,
crack down on it
assess
more,
you,
sort of.
assess you on like your actual knowledge rather than what you can write down because they have no ability to control what you
Yeah,
can
to
write
control what
on
you
a bit
do.
of.
And now even they have so ironically the thing that I made a point of like only responding to the other students who actually wrote it because I would throw their things into AI because I
Yeah,
can you can kind of
you
spot
can
AI.
tell. Yeah,
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 you can spot like they use like words that you're like it doesn't really I don't know about that.
yeah.
But
It's a weird word.
yeah, yeah. It'll use a weird word, or it always ends things, especially when talking about geopolitics or something like that, or politics or history. It always says something like, furthermore, nations should try to work together or something like that. They
Yep.
always say that at the end, like, always, yeah, because AI can't say something like diabolical. I mean, it could, you can kind of prompt it, but, you
Yeah,
know,
you can
so
cook it
yeah,
your
you can
way.
kind of tell. So I would make a point of responding to people who actually wrote their things and it was because it was like getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer the amount of people, and then finally there's like one other kid in the class. I remember going up to him and just asking like, you're like the only other person I know who writes it. He's like, yeah, man, I noticed that. I just stopped responding. Mike, currently have an F as it's my grade because I stopped responding to other people's discussion
Oh,
posts.
and then like the discussion is part of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and it's part of your grade.
I'm wondering if Cole was a part of it. There's one of my papers where there was like three or four of us from the military were all in this doing the same class,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
discussion part of it was like a significant percentage. So we would just have a discussion between us every week.
yeah. Every week because
I
everyone
would
else
just
is.
and we'd just sit there and just talk to each other in this forum and be like, "Cool,
Well,
bro.
that's kind of what we ended up doing. I was like, hey, man, you respond to my post, I'll respond to your post. We'll get the
Yeah,
points
you
for
just
it.
have a talk." Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have
yeah,
and also the discussions aren't even really discussion. It's like you got to reply to someone else's post because you have to, and that's the only reason people are doing it, really. So they just
yeah.
click
So they
some
don't.
random thing, and then the replies are also AI generated too.
Yeah, because all they're doing is copying post and
Y-
going right.
Yeah,
One paragraph reply to this, and it's just
yeah,
like,
yeah. Touching on
man.
this, and this. I mean, here's the thing: some of these people are getting they're getting great at prompting AIs. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that they're getting great at
no
that.
doubt,
Yeah,
no doubt.
not much
Getting
else.
real good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing
Fuck
great
yeah.
at that. But now they have the same tool I use to check whether or not it's AI also has another. It's called Quillbot, and I use it for grammar actually a lot too. It's a
Oh
great
yeah.
thing for proofreading your work and stuff like
I
that.
use Grammarly.
So Quillbot is Grammarly just you can do a lot more before they start making you pay for it.
Ah, okay.
The exact
Let's pay
same
for
thing.
it.
Literally the
Yeah,
exact same thing. Yeah, yeah. And I got the thing on my browser now. What do they call it? The
yeah, yeah.
extension now. Yeah.
Same.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
but it has a thing called a humanizer on it.
Oh,
Yeah, and you plug an AI response into it, and it like humanizes it, and then yeah, that's scary now because it's like you can't even see now. But I checked it out one time. I threw like a AI response into it, and and then put that back into the AI detector, and it only cut it down by like a little bit, so it doesn't.
yeah.
It's
But then
still
I've heard
another.
those AI detectors are also didn't like it read the what's your document of independence. What do you guys call it?
Oh, the Declaration of Independence. They read
Yeah,
that,
it
thought it
said
was
it was
AI.
like 80% chance that it was AI or something stupid.
Yeah, and that doesn't help the conspiracy theorists anymore, man. That just gives them more
No.
fuel, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's some people that got real into
Yeah,
that.
yeah. They're like, we knew it, the aliens, like
Yeah, the aliens. They bought AI here years ago.
yeah, the aliens gave George Washington AI, right? Thomas Jefferson, that is. I think he wrote it, yeah.
And that's it. And then the French came and supported you and you beat the British.
Yeah, no, right. No, man, the French don't get enough credit for that one, man. They don't.
Bro,
Yeah.
100%. I saw it come up in an argument the other day when it was, some US politician said something to a French politician on Twitter, basically saying, like, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German. And the reply was, if it wasn't for us, you'd still be English.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's pretty based, man. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't.
this is fucking,
They're
it's
not
the
wrong.
same argument.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean, and there even is an argument that like Hitler would have actually lost the war eventually because he invaded anyway, right?
yeah,
Because they might have just
yeah,
been speaking Russian or something. Who knows, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, which is worse, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, UK would have been fine, So
Yeah, they're sitting on the island like, look.
yeah, they're sitting there like, yeah, they're just chilling. But no, I mean that is a valid argument. The French definitely don't get enough credit, man. No.
No, it was like, I don't even remember when I learned about that. And I was like, fuck, man. Everything in history is so,
Yo, and
like,
then do you learn about the after the war? How we
no.
just told them like we're not gonna fucking pay you back. Yeah.
What, the French? Fuck you.
Yeah, so that's
What are
why
you
the
going to
French
do
started
about it?
taking our sailors off of our ships and stuff because we had told them, obviously it's an agreement.
Ah.
They loaned us a lot of
Yeah.
money. They gave us the military support, material support as well. We were like, we're not fucking paying you back. And then we
Go
declared
fuck
them on
yourself.
road docks. And like, yeah, not only are we not paying you back, but don't cross this imaginary line in the water either. Yeah.
That's so fucking.
Yeah. They were pretty, but still, the French weren't in a. They didn't have they weren't in a place at the time to really respond decisively because boom,
Yeah,
right after
that
the
makes
French
sense.
Revolution is happening, then you have all that like and people think like they stormed the Bastille and then it was just all fine, but no, they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
just no, it was just shit for a couple of years until Napoleon
Yeah,
came. Then
I mean,
Napoleon
that's what
came,
happens throughout
yeah,
history, right? It's like
cakes.
all of these things, and they look like singular events, but it's like
Hmm.
there's flow on from event
Yeah,
that
exactly.
lasts years.
Like Louis they didn't even cut Louis' head off for a while, man. He was just chilling in the palace and stuff for a while, man, after they took over and stuff. And then he
Yeah,
was still king and stuff, but he tried to escape or something too. Like he tried to go out and like he like dressed up as they dressed him up as like normal people or something like that. Like
yeah.
but they caught him and brought him back. Then they're like, yeah, we gotta chop this guy's head the fuck off.
Let's just fucking get it
Gotta
done.
fucking kill him. Yeah. And then Napoleon pops up, man. And then it's like so they weren't in a position to really tell the United States like,
Yeah, hey,
we're,
fuck you.
we're gonna
Actually, pay
get you,
us.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That makes sense. I wonder how much like giving the US material support weakened them to the point where
yo,
the
it's
flow on
great.
effects happen,
So
right?
like that's been my new like focus now has been the French Revolution. I go through a phase, like every
That's a
couple of years,
random.
you get a
That's a
phase.
niche fucking.
Yeah, it's pretty niche, bro. It's pretty niche. But like so that's the interesting thing is like you've talked looking at like kind of and I don't want to sound like one of those guys, but the socioeconomic kind of situation going on there, they were already kind of broke. So you had this son, I don't know if you heard the Sun King, Louis XIV. He was like the most based French ruler you're ever gonna find since maybe Joan of Arc. She wasn't even a ruler, I guess, but I mean,
Yeah,
pretty base guy. I mean, he expanded the French Empire. He was whooping ass in the wars and stuff like that. And he enriched the French nation a lot, right? Then like every big guy who they call the Great or the Sun King, right? Their son is always like a douchebag, like idiot. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like
absolutely.
his son, King Louis XV, left a lot to be desired, and then I think he died early. And then the 16th was the one who the revolution had. And so by that time, like the peasants were like they were hurting bad. There was food problems, food insecurity has been like the start of most big problems around the world, right?
Yeah,
Just food insecurity.
yeah,
They didn't take care of that, and then they have things like the "Let Them Eat Cake" comment, which came way after that,
mm,
right? But the whole "Let Them Eat" it kind of symbolized the situation, how the rich did not care at all about the poor, even though they were responsible for them. And then they were kind of like there was semi like peasants almost, like they could leave, like the feudal kind of thing had long left that part of Europe, but like they were peasants in all but name, right? Because they couldn't leave because they weren't making enough money to leave, right?
yeah,
Um, exactly that type of stuff, and they were just so poor there was no food. No one was making enough money, and then they were also just broke. The crown was broke because they had lost the 7 Years' War, right? They lost that one pretty decisively too, right? Um,
Yeah.
uh, and so they've lost a lot of lucrative colonies in the Americas, but they kept, I think, their most lucrative one. I don't want to say it was Haiti. I believe it was another island, but but they made a lot of sugar cane and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But still, they lost a lot of lucrative islands and stuff, right? They still had the Louisiana area, but there's only so much you're going to make from furs, right? Um, and so and then they lost the whole Quebec. They lost that whole thing, Canada, right? And so that was the big thing that really hurt them. And so they lost all this money and they were broke, and then they didn't have really much to pay it back. So then that's after that. Then they essentially funded the American Revolution, right?
Yeah.
And they won, right? But there wasn't really. I think there's. I was reading this. I'm reading this book called Napoleon. I can't remember the author because I haven't touched the book in like 2 weeks. Um, but I'm reading Napoleon, right? And it's just a story of his life, pretty in depth. Um, but it kind of talks about how there was really no net gain from French
Yeah.
winning the war. Like we gained
Kind of makes
everything, and
sense.
then we're like we're
Yeah.
not going to pay you back.
Yeah,
So
and then they're like, ah,
well,
fuck that. And they can't afford to finance their own military to
yeah,
then enforce the debt.
yeah, that type of stuff. But then it was like they couldn't even. They kept doing a lot of like shifting around of assets and things and funds and things like that, which you kind of see happening now in like the U.S. government and things like that. Like it's self-evident right now. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that stuff happened. So they were just really weren't really making any money, right? And then they just had operating from a net loss the whole time. And so then the people, that kind of the mob, rose up.
The mob were
But
like, fuck.
the original French Revolution was really like the middle class, like bougie middle class people rising up, which is really what most revolutions tend to be. Like even the American Revolution was like rich guys who were like, "Well, you want to tax me?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It
that's what it
wasn't
was.
like the poorest of the poor being like,
No, exactly. No, the
yeah,
poorest of the poor were really just doing the same thing they were always doing.
try to not die.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the same thing that the French peasants were trying to do, just trying to not die. But then they got riled up by the upper middle class people who were like just essentially, at least in the French case, they were the people who were like lost out on not being nobles or nobility, or the people who like nobility adjacent. Those are the people who started the French Revolution, right?
Yeah, that makes
They
sense.
riled up all the
It's like the
people.
people who could see that next level up
Yeah,
and were
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
You know what? If I just tip the scales here a bit,
Yeah, I'll just go
yeah.
give these poor, hungry people pitchforks. We'll get it
Yeah,
going.
well, yeah, and it works every time. And then look
Yeah.
what happens. You give them muskets and cannons, man.
Yeah, it turns out making firearms way
Yeah,
worse.
boom, give that man a gun.
Yeah.
Nah, but
Well,
man, that's like the French Revolution, super, 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 boiled down. But I mean, there's a whole, and there's all these other different things like the Thermidorian reaction, the rise of the Jacobites, all this crazy stuff. In short, the Thermidorian reaction is when they were cutting the heads off. That's
okay.
when they,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't start cutting the heads off initially, right?
Ah,
Initially, it was like, all right, the crown is a needed thing, right? Royalists are a needed thing. We should keep them in
yeah.
power, but like they severely reduced power. You didn't really have much say in anything anymore, right?
Yeah,
The
it's just a
parliament had
figurehead.
all the power. It's like pronounced that as something different, at least with the French. But they had all the power. But then it was him trying to escape, and then him beginning to kind of become stubborn. And then also just for lack of a better term, them realizing that they could be like, hey, fuck this guy. We can go. We can actually have all the power. And
Yeah.
so that's when they started really lobbing heads off at like an increased rate.
They
With
made
like
a cool
anybody.
machine that could cut heads off, and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
you should
I
use
mean,
this.
even Napoleon's wife, future wife, her husband was a royalist who, like a general who got his head lobbed off, and she was in prison waiting to get her head lobbed off when the guy who was doing all the lobbying, he was overthrown because like they kept overthrowing the new government over and
Yeah,
over and
yeah,
over
yeah.
again. Yeah,
It's not
he
just
was
the
overthrown
one.
like 7 days before she was due to have her head lobbed off. Josephine, I think her name is. Right? She so Napoleon just got lucky finding. I mean, that's actually maybe not so true because she cheated on him pretty prolifically, right? Yeah, like
I
she.
mean, that is pretty French, though. They
It is,
Uh,
though, and it seems like Napoleon was the only one who cared about it. I mean, so you read some of this guy's letters, man, he he used to be, like, heartbroken in these letters. I mean,
she's just
like, couldn't
pouring up
catch a
the
hint
whole of
heartbroken,
Paris.
like yeah, like,
Oh,
he so I think before her, I don't even know if he dated this girl, like, his name was, like, Desiree or something like that, um, and, she was clearly not interested in him, at least from the letters from back and forth. He would, like, spam her letters, man. This is
he's down
before
bad.
yeah.
Imagine being that powerful and you're down that bad.
Well, so this is before he gained power, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was I think her sister at the time, this Desiree person was already her sister was already married to his brother, Eugene or Joseph. I think Joseph wasn't married. No, yeah, Joseph maybe. She's already married to his brother and cousin, but like she was married to a Bonaparte, I know that. And
Yep.
so they weren't very well people didn't like them. They weren't like really nobility. They were like fake nobility from Corsica, right? And even in Corsica they kind of got thrown under the bus because England took it over
Yeah.
and the revolution happened, so they had to run to France. So no one really liked the Bonaparte family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's sending mail to this girl Desiree, and I can't remember where he was at the time, and he's kind of just bumming around Paris, right? You know, like he like writes these books where he's the main character and stuff like that. These pamphlets, like he would like put his friend's name in. Like he was just doing random stuff at the time. Like he wasn't really.
Weird.
This
It's a
is
weird fucking
post
dude.
Toulon too, so he's already gained a little bit of fame, right?
Yeah.
From the siege of Toulon, right? Because you know, but now he's just kind of loafing around. Oh, and then they gave him a generalship or something, and he refused it because it wasn't good enough for him. I mean, bro had the ego of like Thanos, man. I mean, this guy had ego like none other. So yeah, and he
Fucking
was sparing this girl for like months until I guess he began to get the hint. And like it's funny reading the letters, you can begin to see that um he's not losing interest, but he's realizing that she never had any interest, you know?
yeah, and he's just like, oh
He's like,
fuck.
damn, man. But even then, he never really let go. He was like, I know I'll always be in your heart. No, you're not, bro. Like, get
Oh,
the hell out of here. But yeah, I mean, he was
that's
kind of an awkward weirdo, kind of not in the same way that Hitler was. 'Cause, people who used to know Hitler, like they used to say, like he would just be crazy, sitting in
yeah.
a corner, just quiet, and then burst out ranting about, whatever, Jews or whatever the hell
No
he was
joke.
ranting about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this is almost a direct quote too from one of his like compatriots who used to fight, who fought in the war with him. Said no one liked him,
He's
but he
just
fought
weird.
well. Yeah, and he was
Yeah.
weird, but I think Napoleon was just socially weird, right? Where Hitler
Okay.
was just weird all around.
He's
Yeah.
just an absolute weirdo.
Yeah, like, when he
Yeah.
got in, like, the camp, like, the camp when he went to, like, go to Italy and stuff like that, when he was in the camp, he was, like, at home, like, everyone loved him, he was fine,
Yeah.
people liked him, kinda like Julius Caesar, right, He didn't
Yeah.
do very well socially either, he wasn't the big politics guy, I mean, well, it's self-evident, he got stabbed to death
Yeah. 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 By everyone he knew.
by everybody, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. They all stabbed him.
they all
Yeah.
got him, bro. Yeah, no,
Fucking
yeah,
hell.
that's actually it's a nice way to go out, it's a
I mean,
simple way.
you got to die something, right? Fuck it.
That's something. I mean, at least he wasn't, killed by his wife or something like that. But yeah, Napoleon was just so weird, man.
Yeah.
Um, he was good at, sending grape shot into crowds of civilians and stuff, but in other things,
Good.
and
Yeah. Yeah. It's what it's what the peasants
well,
want.
that's actually what got him his biggest like jump in his career was set the whiff of grape shot. I think that's what they
Oh,
call it.
making like designing grape shot or shooting them
No,
at
no. So
civilians.
while he's loafing around Paris, right?
Yeah.
He just so happened that he was like the highest commander in Paris when new riots took over, like the mob took over again.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so they're like you gotta do something, man. And he's like, and so he's in artillery. Like he grew up. I mean, he grew up in the forest, like doing artillery. He was an artillery. He started in artillery at Siege of Toulon, and before
Yeah.
that, he went to the school of artillery. Right. So his first thing is like, go grab me some artillery pieces, and he
Or
starts
just
with a grape shot,
shell civilian.
and just point blank started shelling the crowd with a grape shot. Yeah. Yeah, it's called the famous the famous term is called the whiff of grape shot is what gained him his biggest like. And so they were like,
Nice.
"Great, you saved us from getting overthrown." Yeah, the whiff. It was more like a oh, and then he brought the cannons to a church and was gonna blast the church point blank, but they surrendered.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
hell.
He didn't play, man. He didn't play. So they were
No,
like, "Yeah,
no,
we'll give
that's
you a command in Italy. Go do that." But that was supposed to be like a death command because it was like they gave him
yeah.
like a crappy army, and then he pulled it off somehow, and then came back, and then long story short, he overthrew the government, and then boom, yeah,
Fair.
But he
Fucking
was
hell.
weird. He couldn't talk to women though. You know?
That's clearly not a ladies' man at all.
No, not at all, man. Yeah.
Weird. Oh well, everyone just learned something about French history. That's
Yeah,
pretty
guys. Yeah, man.
fucking hell.
Definitely dive into it. I definitely say dive in, but it takes time though. Because
Yeah.
like at
So
first you're like,
it's
what the hell is this, man? You know, like
learning all the
this is
names and like timelines is
the names are the worst part. I can't even pronounce half of them.
yeah.
And it's weird whether you, so I've learned to like read a book and then also listen to the audiobook afterwards. It's great with pronunciation if you don't know how to. You could also just look it up on like Google if you want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it helps with like pronunciation and stuff overall. But different authors will pronounce the same name differently, which really pisses me off. Um, but it's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That makes
and the
sense.
weird thing is like none of these authors you read about the French Revolution are French. They're all like
Ah,
English and
yeah.
American. You know, so you got. I don't know if there's some bias you got to take into account either, but it would be nice to find a French book about it. But
Yeah. I mean, that's generally the thing, right? If you're writing or talking about a subject, you should have at least
have some vested
included
interest in
some something from the
it.
local language.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
hope. I mean,
So
I think Napoleon's a pretty widespread book. I think everyone knows about that one,
yeah,
though.
yeah.
But yeah,
It's the general story.
yeah.
Have you seen the new movie?
The new what?
Is the new Napoleon movie?
Oh man, don't even get me started on that, man.
I haven't watched it.
So,
So
I mean, if you
is
don't
it
know
dope?
much about Napoleon,
Cool.
it's a great movie. But actually, no, no, not even because somebody told me that it's like, yo, it's just his wife cheating the whole time, bro. I'm like, ah, it kind of is, man.
Okay.
Like, so like I think they don't like they frame her in a pretty bad light, even though she
Yeah.
was cheating the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really kind of is just her cheating the whole time, a few battles on the side, and then like her cheating again.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty focused on her, it seemed. But I mean,
For a
there's
movie
some wide
named Napoleon.
yeah, and they just did some stuff that like if you're like a history nerd, it wasn't for history nerds the movie at all. You know,
Yeah,
I'll
I
tell
heard
you
everyone
that.
got real annoyed about the. Is it that firing cannons at the like
Oh yes, at
pyramids
the
or some shit?
Austerlitz, yeah, yeah, firing cannons at the frozen lake and they fall into it. You know, like it's a Polar
Yeah.
Express or something. You know, like like yeah. No, that was one of my biggest pet peeves in the movie. I'm like, that didn't happen. Like that happened in the Decemberist Revolution, like 100 years later in Russia, but no, not
Totally
in
unrelated
yeah,
situation.
totally unrelated situation 100 years later. You know,
Yeah,
um,
good, good.
no, and I don't know. I mean, and then they take artistic liberties, right, with these
Yeah,
movies in Hollywood. We get it, but like Y I don't know, they coulda just showed him wiping him out because they did do that, they wiped him out
yeah,
at
yeah.
Auschwitz,
There's no need to take it that far.
Yeah, I know, like, this
Yeah,
isn't fucking Narnia, man, like, you like, the ice is melting, like
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. That makes
No, yeah, I
sense.
mean, but, like, it was an overall good movie, I guess, if you're not a history buff, like, if you ignore it.
Yeah,
I've also just never been a fan of, like, what's his name? Phoenix? Um,
I don't know how to say his first
and
name.
I'm not even gonna
Jackman.
try, I didn't pronounce his name on purpose. I
Yeah,
don't
fair.
know how to pronounce
It's a
I keep
rough name.
Yeah, it's a rough name, yeah. But, I think it's only because I didn't like the Joker movie, and then I started hating him.
That's
Uh,
fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I haven't seen the second one of that either.
I didn't
Because
see the first one, man. I watched the first, like, 10 minutes, I was like, "No, I'm done with this."
yeah, yeah, it
Uh,
was depressing.
yeah, I'm glad I didn't see it in theaters. I waited till it hit my illegal sites, Allegedly, allegedly.
Alleged
Almost
illegal
forgot
streams.
we're on a podcast. But, yeah, yeah, allegedly. No, but yeah. But Napoleon, I did see in theaters. I did see that one in theaters.
Yeah, because
It looks nice to see all those like battles and stuff like on the big screen. That is pretty cool. It does look nice. But
yeah.
honestly, it's no better than like if you want a good movie about Napoleon, go watch. I think it's Waterloo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it's an
Okay.
older movie. I can't remember the name of any actually, but I saw it when I was a kid in a film. I was like, "This is my shit right here." But,
And that was
yeah,
it. You were
that was
hooked.
it. That was it. I think it was that in a what is it, Bridge Over the River Kwai or something like that.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
seen that.
that
That was good.
those two movies got me like they got me hooked as a kid. I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. Was
Oh,
it?
this.
It was like military movie night with Arlie Diamond or something. No, no, not Arlie Diamond. Lou Diamond. Lou Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even know who Lou Diamond was. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? But yeah,
Yeah. That's a main move.
yeah.
um.
I think he's a bit before my time though.
So just to completely fucking derail and go back to you,
By all
how did
means.
you get into writing for OSINT Defender?
Oh, so this is actually kind of an interesting story, man. So he and I mean, I don't want to say we go way back, but we, back when, so I started OSINT in a like getting into the OSINT community at a weird time. Like it wasn't cool yet to be doing OSINT, right? It
Is
wasn't
it
cool yet.
cool?
Like, yeah,
I
there
don't think
wasn't
it's
like
cool.
1,000 pages on IG,
Yeah.
Um, like the only Intel page I ever saw was Cole's Alcon Intelligence, right? That was the only one on there at the time, right? When I started on there. So like there was really no one doing this stuff. It was like Northern Provisions, Analyze Educate, um, Streak and Delilah. He's a guy who focused on smart arms and stuff. He did some great work actually. Who else? But like that on Instagram, it was like those and the kind of the people around them. There were the only people
Yeah.
doing that, that type of stuff. And if I didn't mention anyone, I'm sorry. But yeah, and that was really it. So and then on Twitter, it was the OGs like Intel Crab, honestly. Oh, Intel Doge, those guys. I got to meet Intel Doge in person actually. Pretty cool guy. Um, but yeah, it's like it wasn't a lot of people doing it. So like the community was slim, and so you had an opportunity to really talk to everybody who's like now pretty big now. Um, so like they would have these nightly spaces. This is doing the lead up to the Ukraine war. They would have nightly spaces. What do they call them? There was kind of a rift that happened. We'll get into that too. But I can't remember what they called it. I forget what they called it, man. But it was like these nightly spaces they had every day for like a year almost. And then when it got pretty evident that Europe Russia was going to go in, people were always coming up, and they would ask people to come up and talk and stuff. And so I started becoming a regular speaker up there. Defender was always up there too. Um, and so kind of in the back, we would back channel. Then eventually started back channeling, like helping each other with sourcing and stuff like that. And I specifically like the most vivid, like earliest moment that's vivid in my mind. I can remember like we actually worked on something kind of together. Would have been before the war when I don't know if you remember that you probably do. Every single train that had a tank on it was going to Ukraine. Didn't matter where the
Yep.
video came from. And so kind of
Yeah.
working on kind of teaming with him to kind of figure out all right, where these videos are actually from. Most of them were from NATO exercises in Poland and other things like that, right? From like 2 years prior.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of these Arctic exercises they had, and winter exercises they had. But there was always like a lot of hardware moving east to west. West to east across Europe, right? And so people were taking these videos and saying, "Oh my goodness, U.S. sending M1 Abrams to Ukraine to fight right now." So we were, finding these photos, finding these videos, and uh,
Figuring out
yeah, figuring out
if they
sometimes
were
using
legit.
geolocation and stuff to figure out where they were. A lot of times we got lucky though in doing like finding things like we'll just find the video because there's those like YouTube channels that just film like random people, kind of like train watchers almost, and they'll
Yeah. Yeah.
just film just trains going by with military hardware on it. So you'd find that you'd find some of the clips from some of the NATO videos and stuff. Even small things like I remember even we figured out that the video was not indeed from Poland, but it was from Germany, from the high vis vest that the guys were wearing, because they all wear the same one in Germany, and in Poland it differs, right? And they
Yeah.
didn't wear those anywhere we could find, like small things like that. We were doing. That's the earliest time I can remember, directly working with him. And then we kind of the whole time we just talked, in the background, for all the years after that. He'd check up on me, I'd check up on him, see what he's doing. He'd laugh at something I said, I'd laugh at something he said. But it was like small. And then randomly, I wouldn't call it random. I think I had hit him up talking about something. I think it was election night when Donald Trump won the election. And I said something like, "I know you're happy, dog," something like that. And he's something to the tune of like, "Hell yeah, man, it's great," and but we'll see what he does, that type of stuff. We were very cautioned, right? But then he goes, he just drops. He's like, "Hey, man," so he's like dropping hints at me, like he's like, "Yeah, man, it's really hard to do all this stuff." I'm like, "Damn, yeah, it must be like you built this out
You're
to a
like,
man."
yeah, bro, that's rough.
Yeah, I wasn't catching the hint, man. I wasn't catching the hint. He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
if you someone had to help with me," I'm like, "Yeah, man, if you ever need any help," then it clicked. I was like, "Oh, if you need any help, you let me know." He's like, "Yeah, man, would you like you want to have a call next week?" I was like, "Oh shit, this is really happening." So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
That's
then I think I started posting the next week.
oh sick.
Yeah, and then we decided we want to do like a trial period a bit, and then we decided to announce. I think it was like New Year's or the day after New Year's. Um, but yeah. So that's kind of how I know, bro. And he's always just been. I know he gets a lot of flack um, about things, sourcing and other things like that. I know. I've been trying to like, I mean, he used to, he still does, honestly. He'll ask me, like, we have like a Discord, a private Discord chat. We were just like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
hey, I got this, hey, I got this, right? And so, he would, we'll ask each other about sourcing and stuff like that. And I do think he definitely made a concerted effort, even before I started, working with him directly, to kind of clean that up a bit, I think. But I also just think that he kind of had this, we all kind of went through this, at least not, maybe not you, because you're kind of looking at it from a more objective stance here. Um, but and including I kind of went through this phase of, like, whoa, we're super pro Ukraine, and then you kind of get disenfranchised with that. And I never became pro Russia, but there was a period of time where a lot of the stuff he was saying was kind of questionable, and he got a lot of flack for that, I think, and he's largely rebounded from that now, I think, but because you live and you learn, right? And I think he's
Yeah.
largely rebounded from that now. But even now, I mean, even now, right, some of the stuff that we'll see bro say, and I also have no control over what he can
Yeah,
say
yeah,
whatever
of
he
course.
wants on there,
Yeah, yeah.
and sometimes I agree with what he says, sometimes I'll agree with his takes, sometimes I won't, sometimes he'll agree with my takes, sometimes he won't. But like I mean, he will let me post anything I want to, short of a racial slur on there if I want, right? So I think that's a great thing that he understands. Like I told him that when I came on, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, whatever you want me to do, I think including some of that INT portion of OSINT Defender would be good too. And eventually, that's what our plan is, to kind of build it out more. I told him diversifying should be a big thing too. That's why he came over to IG as well.
It makes
Um,
sense. I mean, he's
Actually, I
smashing it.
think I think the biggest impetus for him to do that was that day that Twitter went down like 8 times in one day.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because
and
I
he
was
was,
I was really curious because
bro.
I
Yeah,
watched
he was like,
all of those big Twitter accounts,
yeah,
all of them almost
all of
like
a sudden, right?
day. I started Instagram
Yeah,
accounts. I was
all of
like,
them. Yeah, it was like that day. He's like, yeah, I'm starting Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Um,
I mean, yeah, it must be scary because this is
well,
his
yeah, the
baby.
whole the whole platform of OSINT Defender is on Twitter, really,
Yeah,
essentially. And I'm glad that he did it actually, because he'd been talking about diversifying for a while. So it's good to
yeah,
have that. And he's also just a good guy, man. Like he goes through things as well. I go through
yeah.
things.
He's a human dude.
Yeah, exactly. He's a
Yeah.
human.
All right, we're just gonna cut
All right.
back in and finish the story.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Yes, yeah, so honestly, I think that what had happened is that he was getting bigger. Other people weren't, and people aren't gonna like my kind of take on this. I think he was getting bigger, other people weren't, and then obviously he's getting to a point where he's able to start making money on it, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I think there was this idea that he would maybe share the proceeds with it, and I'm not 100%. I would say that the caveat here, though, is this, right? I should have prefaced this with this, is that I don't know the 100% full story. This is what people on either side are telling me, right?
yeah, yeah.
But people began to kind of openly call him out for things, and then I think there's little small things became bigger things because that tension was already there. And so now there's kind of this rift in the OSINT community that's been there. Um, but I think it's like the key people though still seem to not really care, and so that's why the only reason why I was like, what, I should still work with bro, because one, and I don't want to sound like the guy like he's never done anything to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, he has never given me a reason to think that he's being disingenuous. He may have been led astray, maybe possibly at one point, right? But I think the biggest thing is coming back around, realizing that maybe kind of changing your analysis, changing how you do things. Um, and that is hard. He's viciously pro-Ukrainian. If that's not self-evident to people, anyone who thought he wasn't at one point, right? He's now even taken flack from pro-Trump supporters, right? Saying he's not Republican, right? Things like this. There's somebody who posts on who comments under every single one of our posts. He voted for Trump. He voted for Trump. He wanted this. I'm like, I don't know, man. Things like that. Like, you can vote for Trump and not have wanted all this crazy shot out stuff that's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Like,
yeah,
you
I
could
know,
vote for
but like,
Trump and be like, "Fuck, man, this is pretty
yeah,
cooked."
this is
Yeah,
pretty shot the fuck out. Like,
yeah, yeah,
he shouldn't be doing this.
yeah.
And he's been vocal about support for Ukraine, and he's kind of always has been. But yeah, there's kind of this rift, and so what happened, from my POV, right, is I kind of dipped for like a year, from like covering this stuff. It would have been maybe around the year anniversary of the war. It was just too much to do the play by play stuff, like covering it. It was just getting in like and having a life, right? You can't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So, like I mean, I'm talking about I was covering at this point. This is way before years now. At this point, before I hopped on with OSINT Defender, but I was able to I was covering like battlefield developments like by the mile almost. Like they're this many miles away from Mykolaiv, right? Like and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I
yeah,
stopped and I did for like a year. Um, I was just working, saying to myself, touching grass, it's something we should all do a little more. Um, you know, uh, being a normal human being, paying attention to my girlfriend at the time, that type of stuff. That
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
you're supposed to be doing, that we a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
times don't do sometimes. But we and then I came back, and then every the spaces that I was talking about before that happened every night, those weren't happening, and then like no one was talking. The group chats were all dead,
yeah, yeah.
that type of stuff.
You're like,
And
what the fuck happened
it was
here?
like someone lit a bomb in there, like like I mean, it was like and maybe this is bad. It was like a nuclear bomb went off in a city, like the after effects. It was
Yeah,
just nuclear holocaust. It seemed. Um, but everyone was still doing their own thing, but they were doing their own thing like alone.
yeah.
Um, and the biggest thing that was I came back and he was at like 500K or something like that by then. When I left, he was maybe like 50K or something like that. And I remember hitting him up like, "Yo, man, this is great, man. Good to see building up." And we talked for a little bit, but I could tell like there was something wasn't being said.
Tension.
But I didn't
Yeah,
ask either. Um, but then
yeah,
I just started noticing that talking to other people, they were when they referred to OSINT Defender, right? It was always like in a negative way. I'm like, why do they hate bro so much? And I think a lot of it is in my business, and so I have never really even delved into it that deep with him or anybody else because it's really not my
yeah. That's
business.
fair.
And I think one thing that I think, right, and this is, tell me if I'm crazy or not. If someone is unwilling to tell me really what happened, if and they don't like, let's say OSINT Defender, right? Then it can't be that. Like, if you're trying to steer me away from him, why not just tell me
Yeah,
what happened, right?
just
So
fucking say it.
yeah,
If
just
it's
say it, just tell me,
yeah,
or maybe guys, it comes down to some type of ego thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's largely what I think it is.
yeah. That's fair.
Because
But
he's never given me a reason to doubt him or in any way like that. He's kind of always been a good guy, and I
yeah,
never think he wasn't a good guy. I think maybe his uh his opinion of kind of the war changed for a bit pretty drastically, I think. But even I mean that happened to me too, man. I just wasn't voicing it. But he
yeah,
had the platform and he was doing that.
yeah. And
Um,
he's got a big platform, so
yeah, he's got a
it
big
would have
platform,
been
so
a
obviously
lot of
people
people
are gonna be
reading that,
more
and then a lot of people going to be
pretty pissed off. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah,
even now, man, it's like it doesn't matter what he'll say. He'll say things sometimes. I mean, he'll praise Trump, right? I'll praise Trump or we'll be critical of Trump. It doesn't matter what you say. Someone's gonna. I mean, he was
yeah.
joking with me one time. I've been accused of being everything from a Zionist to a pro-Russia Ukrainian. I mean, it's like you can't even be. You can't. It can't be all these things
Yeah,
at one
yeah,
time.
yeah. It's not. You've
Yeah.
been the whole circle, the
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
paradox. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's the whole political spectrum. He's been accused of everything on it.
Fair, fair.
Um, yeah, it's
All right.
pretty crazy. Yeah,
Well,
and
John,
honestly, I think the more he and he's been focusing on like more long form stuff too. I've noticed too.
that's
He
fair. That's
writes
fair.
some pretty long posts, which I've been digging that honestly, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I think long form is. I mean, it's better, especially for intelligence writing, because it lets you lay out like a
yeah,
much more articulated statement rather
like
than
what's
like a
behind it,
paragraph.
right? Like what's
Yeah,
behind it, and what's going on. Context is a huge thing.
yeah,
But he's kind of always done that. That's kind of how he got kind of big, I think, is because he was
yeah,
able to provide that context. He knew what was going on here and why. So he provided that context. It wasn't like what's that thing like CTGN, that Chinese based news company,
yeah.
where they'll just say in all caps, Marco Rubio
This,
did this, and then no context. You're like, damn,
yeah,
what
it's
the hell's
just
going
bang.
on? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all
So
right.
he was able to provide that context, and that's another reason why I decided to agree to come on because that was what I was kind of already doing was providing that type of context. And he also, I mean, he'll let me like put out like a full assessment. I've done it a couple of times.
That's
It
me.
doesn't receive very well, I'll tell you that. People
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
like to be. It's weird. People don't like work that doesn't have a clear bias.
yeah. I
It's
mean, I think that's very
yeah.
American.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, honestly, man, you're not wrong. You're not even wrong because you
Yeah.
find it mostly from the Americans being pissed off that you're not like leaning towards
You're not
one
siding
side.
with their opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
their
You
opinion,
guys are
but then you find people who like you'll side with kind of like overall, so like an overall assessment, like God forbid you provide a caveat, right? Or an other
yeah.
like that what they call it, the 10th man, kind of
10th man
yeah,
argument.
the 10th
Still,
man.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Like God forbid you provide that other perspective, right? Which is the whole point of, providing that
yeah.
assessment. You're providing all the possible as many of the possibilities as you can by using the information at hand, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you can't you can't just spam one thing, right? And there are some times where I've been writing stuff. And I learned this from, kind of just some of the stuff that I've, learned from you and then also Alcon as well, right? Is there are times where you're gonna be going against your sensibilities when you're writing an assessment, right? There are things that I've written like it's highly likely that this is gonna be the outcome, right? I
Yeah.
hate that,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah. I
sucks.
I don't want that to be the outcome, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is
and I
what I
think
think
people
the outcome will be.
misinterpret that from like you just said, I want that to be the outcome because I said
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's gonna be the outcome. That's the
Yeah.
that's the weirdest thing that, I
Yeah.
even now I'm struggling with that because it's like, well, is it constructive criticism or you just not like what I just said? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
I mean, that's a big pillar of intelligence, though, right? It's like
Yeah.
speak truth to power. Like, regardless of what it means, you need to tell people what might happen,
Yeah,
regardless of
exactly.
how they feel about that.
Mhm. And still
Yeah.
be open to
Uh,
constructive criticism, right? But, like, if some guys
Interestingly,
just
you're seeing the negative aspects of that within the Trump administration, where
yeah,
they're
yeah.
sacking intel professionals who have provided them with assessments they don't like.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I don't think I'm sorry, call me crazy, pattern me a psycho, but I don't think Laura Loomer should be having any type of, sway on who gets canned or who doesn't get canned from the, NSC. I'm sorry, like, that
yeah,
doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Like, Laura
It's
Loomer
fucking
is like a crazy pundit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
man,
Why are they involved
I'm
in
a
that?
Republican myself, man, and I do not, subscribe to the stuff that comes out of her mouth. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
crazy. Laura Loomer should not have any say about what's going on in the NSC. She shouldn't. I'm sorry. She's not a government official, one. Two, she has no experience in intelligence or conflict mitigation, right? So what the hell is she doing, man? Like,
all right, I'm going to cut this back into
yeah,
the
yeah.
regular podcast.
I haven't
Going back to
posted
like the sourcing thing, like I feel like and this is why I don't like posting on Twitter. The speed at which Twitter moves
yeah, yeah.
requires you to essentially, like, if you're not posting something within minutes of it, like
You,
going
you kind
out
of
there,
lost the
you're behind. Like, and
yeah,
another page has posted it, and they're getting the
right.
engagement. Like, so there's that emphasis on like speed, and there's the balance is always speed versus like clarity or like knowing where
Quality.
it came
Yeah, yeah.
from. So like, I understand if he's, I mean, he's a massive Twitter account now, but like, that's the game he's got to play, right? If he wants to be successful on the platform, he has to be fast.
You
And
got
to
to
be
be yeah.
fast, he has to sacrifice the ability to verify. Like
Mhm.
that's just um
Yeah.
it's just
But I
part
mean,
of it.
one thing I will say, man, is he's got a wealth of knowledge, man, about things. I mean, I remember so like when he posts, I haven't posted in about like a week and a half because I've been pretty busy in the past week and a half, so I haven't posted, and he won't even mention it either, which is pretty nice. Or he won't mention it at all.
Yeah.
But then whenever I come pop back, I'll be like, "Good to see you back, bro," and then we just get back to like to usual. But like he's got this wealth of knowledge, man. Like I'm not trying to gas bro up, or anything. He's got. I mean, he will. For instance, I leave when there's posts with a lot of like military hardware in it. I'm great. I know what an F-18, I know what an F-16 looks like. I know what an Arleigh Burke class destroyer looks like. But he'll know the variant just by glancing at these things, right? He'll know whether it's a Flight 2, Flight 3, right, destroyer, right? I didn't know, I don't know these things, right? And so I can ask him like, "Oh, yeah, how do you?" I think one time I asked him like, "How do you identify the difference between a Flight 2, Flight 3 destroyer?" Because you put that post out fast, and it was indeed a Flight 3 destroyer. He was like, "Oh man, yeah, there's no hangar in the back of the flight, the original ones." I'm like, "What? I've never even noticed that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That stuff's beyond
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Like,
It's like you can see it in the just you can like most photos you can see the big hangar, and some of them they're just a wall. I'm like, damn. That was it right there.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's like small things like that, but like, yeah, he's really good with all that stuff. Um,
I mean,
he's
he
also in
spent
the
so long looking at it that he's built up a good base of
Well,
knowledge
yeah.
and
Oh,
understanding.
yeah, definitely. And then he's also like, he's in the force as well.
Oh
So, he has that going for him. But no, he's just a good guy, man,
yeah, that's
And
me.
everyone's gonna have naysayers when you get that big, I think.
Oh,
Um,
big time. I get
yeah.
about a comment every 2 days or a message telling me to end my life.
Yes, yeah. I get about once a month, man, to be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah.
it's
And
just
then
a
on the
statistical thing, right? Like,
Yeah, I know. It's like, if you're this size, this is how many
yeah, you
death
get
threats you're
this
gonna
many hate
get.
comments.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like basically proportional.
Uh,
Yeah, it
But
always cracks me up.
when I go in this space bar, what is it, Mario Nawful space? When I go in his space,
Oh, bro.
sometimes that's when I get the most death threats on Twitter. People
Yeah,
be like, they'll call me the N word. So it was before. I remember before I used to take down I had my. And that's not even why I took it down. I was like, oh, I should put my logo on the thing, but I had my photo on Twitter for the longest time,
yeah.
and
People just straight in there with the racial slurs.
yeah. Oh no, no. This is the funniest thing, right? This person had to have followed me back then, or at least seen my stuff back then, because I was speaking in this space one time. This is about half a year after I changed it to just
Yeah.
the Defense Bulletin logo, and they're like N word, you N word, and I'm like, how do you even know I'm black? Like, what's going on here?
How do you? That's
What?
either
Yeah,
they're just taking like a massive stab in the dark
yeah,
over
exactly.
there,
Yeah, I
or
know.
yeah, they're just like fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get other things, like sometimes like I have trouble pronouncing my R's or something like that, and I remember someone's like, "Pronounce R's correctly, idiot." And I'm
Mm.
like, you're pretty mad, man. That's the best you could come
Yeah,
up
bro,
with.
dang, bro, you're angry, man.
Like you're
Yeah,
pretty angry, dog. You know. But yeah, that's certainly when I get it. But outside of that, like it peaks when I hop in the space. There's like couple thousand people watching, listening. I mean,
yeah,
and then it'll
it's
go down. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I get more the bot things like, like, hey, my sister thought you were cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
every day, every day.
Every single day I get like
That shit cracks me up. And I'm like, has anyone ever
every
fallen for
falling.
this?
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
man. I don't think
They
anyone's
are
ever.
so obvious.
If I was like 10, I'd fall for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
10 and like new to the internet,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like you've never seen a scam before in your life.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember I used to when I was like 9, I used to click on the all those free iPhone
I
ads.
ruined a computer.
Yeah,
I
I was
absolutely
saying.
wrecked a computer. My mum was like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah, I know my parents were pretty pissed, but I mean, I used to click on like you want a free iPhone, and I take the surveys and stuff over and over and over again, waiting for my iPhone, bro.
Have you ever played the video game Rust?
No, I haven't played that. That's the one where you can build stuff though, right? And like build a
Yeah,
world and
yeah, and
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
it's the most ruthless video game there is. Like, it is just super racial, super aggressive,
Yeah.
but it's like everyone is out there to scam and kill each other.
Hmm.
Like, playing that game growing up has just taught me to be just so paranoid
Yeah,
about
of
people
every
trying to
little
fuck
thing.
you over. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
oh
I mean,
dude,
honestly, man, was Rush one of those games where like you can, I don't know, like
you take
all the
you
this
take
girl I know
everything.
plays, what's it called? Like Animal something.
Animal Crossing.
Yes, but they commit like genocide
That's
on that app and
oh
stuff like that.
god,
Yeah.
no, so
Yo,
it's like you just run around and if you kill someone, you can just take everything they have.
that's the premise, right?
And if you can like blow up, if you can get into their base, you can just steal everything they've
Oh,
got.
nice.
So like you could
So
spend an
waiting and like
entire
switching,
week. Yeah, people could
like
spend
yeah.
like literally days farming up like loot, and you just bust their door down and take it all, and
So
that's it.
isn't aren't the servers that are on Rush like they reset after like a week or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that? Yeah,
A
yeah.
week or a month
Oh,
generally.
okay, yeah,
I haven't played it in years
yeah.
because it's like a what do you call it, like game in development. It's pretty rough on your computer, so you need like
You need
a
a
pretty
pretty
good
high speed
PC.
computer, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Your
But
Mac's not gonna run it. Your Dell
no, no,
HP,
no,
yeah, yeah.
no.
It's
It's
not
gonna
gonna run
run it on like, and if you're slow, someone is just gonna kill you. You're like,
it.
that's just depressing.
Oh, that was like when I first started playing PUBG, man. I used to get wrecked. I
Yeah,
don't think I
yeah.
made the top like 50 once.
PUBG's rough.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah,
Fortnite is bad, man. I never really played Fortnite. I didn't like it. I think I just
yeah,
got. I was of age. I was of a certain age where by the time Fortnite got really popular, I was like, I'm not playing
yeah.
that game. But yeah, PUBG is still rough to this day.
PUBG's like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, yeah. It's like there's nothing I'm gonna do about it.
Okay. It's just running, oh, sniped in the head. Oh.
Yeah, it's like, all right. Try again. Same.
Guess we'll start again.
Yeah, I know. Same result.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
Oh man, I forgot about PUBG though. It was fun to play for like 5 minutes
Yeah.
each time. Yeah, each time. It was the first 5
And
minutes.
then it's super frustrating.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's way better than for Fortnite though. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I guess Fortnite cracked the, like, it ran way smoother than PUBG.
Yeah, PUBG.
And, like, because it was a bit more cartoony, was, like, more marketable to kids.
Kids, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like
And then-
Splatoon or whatever that game was. But
It just went mad. Like,
yeah, I know. Right? Then before you know, you got Travis Scott in there or whatever the hell. Like what's even going on in here now, man? Like, I think I stopped playing Fortnite like maybe around. Maybe I don't know. They have seasons or something like that. I guess
Yeah,
call
I
it.
think so.
Yeah,
I think every game does that now.
yeah. I know every game. I'm like, what the hell is this, a TV show? Like, but yeah. I was like, I thought they were just called updates, man. But okay. But yeah, I mean, back when everything, the map was small, Twisted Towers was the most dangerous place. Back like then, that's when I used to play. Now they got like warps, all this crazy thing going on. You can drive cars in there. I mean, it's practically GTA at this point. Honestly, you can drive planes, fly planes. I mean, drive cars, fly planes. It seems. Like, what makes this different than GTA? Just like GTA Vice City, man. Like,
Just for kids.
yeah, just for kids. Yeah.
Good, starting them young.
Yeah, minus the people cursing and the strippers on the street and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Should we just wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think that's
do you
a
want
good
to shout
place.
out whatever?
Oh yeah,
platform
you guys can follow me on Defense Bulletin in one word on all platforms. Literally any platform you thought of, I made an account on there. Whether I'm active on there or not is to be decided, right? But Instagram, Twitter, Defense Bulletin, which is where I'm most active. Check out OSINT Defender as well. And then, also, you're listening to the HM Intelligence podcast. Check him out too, man, because he's doing some great work. So thank you for having me on, man. It was great shooting the shit.
No worries. Thank you for coming.
Right on.
See you.